Quite an analytical mind, David.
I have to say, you really remind me of myself when I was in my early 30s,
Mm.
which was like 15, 16 years ago.
Mm.
Well, 14, 16 years ago.
Mm.
Yes, at that point in my life, I felt the need, and I also felt the thirst and hunger for being analytical.
Mm.
It's also how I was brought up.
When you were very young, like less than 10 years old,
Hmm.
was your family religious?
Loosely so, I would say. My father's family practiced a religion which was kind of a combination of religions.
Okay.
Someone from China, I think, created this belief system, allegedly combining all the popular religious systems, Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism even. And there was one more, but I forgot. He calls it Tin Yasing Gao, which in English loosely means we unite as one and we become as big as the sky.
Cool. I can get behind that. That sounds really good to me.
Yeah, actually, what I liked about it is I felt that it was not so, well, I wanted to use the word bias, but this is not to say that in other religions people are biased, even though they can be sometimes. I really feel if there are issues, it's not about the religions themselves, but about how people practice them. So yeah, my father was pretty devout because the grandma was very, very devout, and my father was just brought up like that. Other than that, we were not religious, even though I went to a Christian primary school, which meant that I had to go every Saturday to some kind of gathering. We sang songs, we read the Bible, and every Sunday we practiced together in the morning, sang more songs, and did some prayers together. I didn't even know what that meant because I was between age 5 to age 10,
Okay.
something like that. Didn't really understand what it was, but from that I remember some stories from the Bible, and I quite enjoy them. Some of them, even now.
I'd like to pass by the water.
Let's go.
So Christianity as a young child in Hong Kong, but never really understanding what... There were rituals, but there wasn't a lot of explanation around it.
Not much.
Yeah.
So there was that, and people in general in Hong Kong, they do some kind of worshiping. I'm just gonna grab some water if you don't
Me
mind.
too. Yeah.
Generally, they do some kind of worshiping. Like for example, we had like a little shrine at home.
Okay.
I think that would largely be Taoist.
Okay. Interesting.
Taoist kind of worshiping. So we're also worshiping our ancestors with that shrine. So we do that. And yeah. So aside from that, I wouldn't call myself religious, nor my family.
If not religious, do you feel you have a certain type of spirituality?
The word spirituality for me didn't really kick in until my late teens.
What did it mean to you, this word, before then, and what does it mean to you after then?
I remember it must have been the last year in my high school and maybe the first year in university when I started meeting these other people who were not from my high school, from other high schools. You see in Hong Kong, there are actually many high schools with different religious practices, Buddhist practices,
Mm-hmm.
Christian practices, Catholicism being the
Mhm.
three most popular ones, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So I started meeting these peers, basically. They were peers, but from different high schools, and some of them very devout Christians, some of them devout Buddhists. And naturally, you started talking about just life in general, you know, budding minds during last year of high school and first year of uni. So we talked about stuff, and I remember I began to question myself. Okay, so if you don't believe in any of this, so what are you? Like, what does this mean anything to you?
Right.
And then someone brought this idea of atheism in front of me, and I thought, okay, maybe this is me. I don't think I believe in a God, and I didn't feel the need to believe in any spiritual entity at
Right.
that point.
Yeah.
However, I felt that in life you need to have a certain goal. It's just like you need to have an itinerary, to go on a trip. Well, now I understand otherwise. Sometimes you don't need an itinerary to go on a trip.
What an amazing life lesson.
Yeah.
You don't need
so-
an itinerary to go on a
Right.
trip.
But back then I was more lustful, I would say.
Yeah.
Hey, also because my parents are sometimes they can be sorry, but they can be very anal.
Hmm.
My parents.
Which is a word that you'd have to define for a lot of people that don't speak English as their
Right.
first language. What does it mean for a person to be anal? I have my own understanding.
Just very tight up one's ass, just tight assed. Just the sphincter really held tight.
Yeah.
Paranoid.
And you mean quite literally holding in the body.
Oh yes.
Mhm.
Oh yes. My
Mhm.
father, yes.
Mhm.
Even now.
Holding. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In his
Anxious.
mid-70s, I would think that life would have mellowed him a little bit, but no, my father is still like fire in many aspects, which can be quite a challenge to hang out with sometimes.
I have a question for you, David.
Go ahead.
When you meet a person, like you see this gentleman approaching here, what's the first thing you notice about him?
Postures,
Me too.
movement patterns.
That was my question.
Yeah.
How long has it been like this for you?
Probably, I don't know, 20 years.
Cool.
Hey.
So I can say that when I noticed you, I was immediately struck by how different your posture is than those around you. And curious.
I think you mentioned that.
And curious about where you learned, what you've studied. To be honest, I didn't do any sort of proper research around this festival. I just signed up and I knew I was coming.
Right.
So I didn't know you were teaching, but when
Right.
I met you, I was like, wow, this man has presence and he speaks loudly and clearly. I bet he's a good teacher. And then I find out you're teaching the
Cool.
intensive, and I was unsurprised. But yeah, so my question to you is, have you always had such posture, or were you unhealthier when you were younger? Did you learn something really key that helped you to get into this shape?
I was very weak as a child.
Okay.
Very weak. I was not into any kind of athletic endeavors between the age of, let's say, 5 until I was 19.
Okay.
I started dancing when I was 19. I was really big on grades at school, and I had very bad grades in any kind of sport, so I thought to myself, okay, let's just give it up, just spend your energy elsewhere, and that's what I did. Kind of a practical consideration back then.
Sure.
Until at one point I felt actually that this unhealthiness was really limiting me in many ways. So that was in my late teens, close to my early 20s when I started dancing when I was 19. So things kind of happened at the same time because dance happened to me, and I also, by that time, I happened to think, okay, David, you better do something physically, whatever it is.
Or you're gonna die.
I actually, well, maybe not die, but well, not being very functional.
Yeah, you felt
Probably.
you felt an urge to self-improvement.
Yes. So actually, around the same time when I started dancing, I tried a few other things. I tried running. I tried going to the gym a little bit. But I didn't like any of that. It didn't work for me.
Okay.
Like I understood that here. Oh, you do this, you're healthy. Okay, yeah, I know. I read about it and I see people change. And okay, I understood all of that here.
Yep.
But I couldn't. And I didn't know the word embody. I didn't know what it meant. But now I do. So I didn't embody any of that. I understood them. But the embodiment was like zero. Not until I met dance or dance happened in my life, I just took it on like fish to water. It really happened like that. I mean, to this day, I'm still asked why. I'm like, why not? Like, there isn't a why. It just happened. I'm thankful, of course, but also I feel it was a fateful event. It just happened like that.
Did one person introduce you?
Yes, literally, just one person.
And who was it?
My buddy I was still in biochemistry.
Okay.
In my first 2 years in uni, I was in biochemistry.
Okay.
Later, I changed to English. So I was still in biochemistry, and one morning, I remember it was the first class, so we started at 8:30. He must have come up to me by about 8:25, something like that. So I felt like I was getting ready for class, and he was coming. Terry was coming. Oh, David, we need one more guy in our modern dance club. Come along. I'm like, go away. I'm getting ready for class. Like, no. It's tonight. Just come. Just do it. I'll introduce you these very cute girls.
Okay.
So he mentioned the word girls. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Nothing to lose,
Why not?
perhaps. Yeah, why not? So I went.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't know what to expect. And he didn't have the time to explain anything because it was class time, right? So I just kind of went. And I saw a room, I saw the teacher, mirrors. I'm like, I've never seen a room like this with mirrors. What do you do with mirrors? You keep looking at yourself. I felt so weird, I felt very weird. I never done anything like that in my life. I remember standing in the back, but kind of listening to the music. I liked the music already because I was singing quite a bit even then. So I like music, that I know. So for me, dance was this thing that combined music and just, I felt like I was moving quite freely. So somehow I found it enjoyable. And it just stuck with me. I remember going back to the dormitory. It's a small room like this, really, shared by me and my roommate, who was a computer science major. Very,
Got it.
Yeah, very straightforward.
Headphones on, eyes on the
yeah,
screen.
yeah, always on the screen. So his desk would be here, my desk would be there.
Yeah.
The windows would be here. No room for mirrors whatsoever in the room. But there's space in between the two beds, so I would be dancing there and looking in the windows at night, which were reflective.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And I was doing that for 10 minutes or so, and then he turned his head. What are you doing? So he used to practice martial arts, so he knows about, the lines of the body and stuff. What are you doing? Are you doing some kind of bad kung fu or something? No, this is dance. He went something like, you look really stupid, but I didn't care. Good. So even at that point, now this for me was an important point because I really felt inside that I really enjoy this, and I was right away confronted by a close friend of mine, my roommate. We were close friends. that you're stupid,
Yeah.
you're silly,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't care.
Hmm.
So that really set the stage for me. Okay, I enjoy doing this. You think I'm silly? I actually don't care.
Now, this behavior, the not caring about judgment,
Right.
did you practice this before in other contexts, or was this a new thing for you?
That's a very good question. I would say it's a new thing for me, considering that pretty much all my life prior to that moment, I was not confident about my physical body.
Okay.
So for me, it was a little bit of a quantum leap.
Mm.
To be able to feel satisfaction in movement and at the same time not caring about others' judgments
That's
about
big.
my physical self,
Mm-hmm.
that was quite something. So that happened. And I think even to this day I can say that it was life-changing, to say the least. It gave me a hobby back then. Later on became a passion. Later on became a profession. Later on became a way of life. And here I am. So, if you ask me now, it would be difficult for me to divide. So what is your hobby? I'm like, I do it every day.
Yeah.
This is my
This
life.
is my life.
My life is my hobby, is my passion, is my job, is my, I don't know, the list can go on. And I know this is probably weird for most people, but like I was saying earlier about my dance, even very early in the career, I don't really care. If you think I'm weird, okay.
Yeah.
Then you think I'm weird. I'm actually okay with that.
Yeah.
So
I think you're super weird, and I love it.
Oh yeah.
I know how weird I am. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, I think along those lines we're similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining. So for the sake of comparison, I guess is the best word.
Yeah.
When I was a young child, my parents enrolled me in lessons.
Right.
Swimming lessons, tennis lessons, basketball, soccer, all of these different things. They say, okay, your day now is made up of blocks of time. Some of them will be academic and some of them will be physical. So there's a huge emphasis on physical movement, health, safety, learning things. And yet, the instruction in these various areas, I can say from my perspective now, 30 years later, was insufficient. Like the people that are teaching swimming, a lot of them don't really know how to teach swimming.
Of course, yeah.
And that can be applied to, a lot of the people that are coaching soccer are just the parents of children who are playing soccer. They've had no tutelage, they've had no mentorship, they've had no training. So it's more just supervision and hoping that the children don't hurt themselves.
Right.
But without proper training, if you release 5-year-olds to chase after a ball, they're all just going to bump into each other and fall down and hurt themselves. And, that's one way to learn. But another way to learn is to teach them functional movement patterns so that they can go to the ground easily and roll and get back up.
Yeah, for sure.
I can say that when I was playing soccer, I wasn't particularly good at this, but I was voracious. Like I never stopped. So if I ever, if a player fouled me, for example, I'm running and they hit me from the side.
Right.
I know that I have two options, and I was very aware of what's happening around me, so I would prepare and I would choose one. Option one is to hit them back, to meet them with the same force, and to potentially destabilize them.
Right.
By twisting my body in some way. And then
Which
when
could
they
also potentially hurt you.
Exactly, it's impact, but it does destabilize and immobilize them while I can then pursue the ball. And I used that a lot because I was bigger.
Right.
My center of mass was more significant and lower than the other players, so I could go around like a bowling ball and just knock people off their feet.
Right.
The other option is, let's imagine that I've done this to you 3, 4, 5 times where I knock you down. Now I can see you're coming at me, and this time you're angry and you're really gonna go for it. And so then I just become soft like water. I pretend I'm gonna meet them, and then I absorb all of their force and I let them through, which doesn't hurt me actually. It's actually very soft.
Yeah.
But what happens to my physical body is it goes, it looks very impressive and usually results in me going to the ground and rolling
Right.
once, maybe rolling twice, but then using that momentum onto my feet to continue running.
Right.
So in the case that it's a scoring opportunity, they
Right.
hit me, I go tumbling to the ground. Usually everybody stops at this point because it's obviously a foul.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody, and the referee brings the whistle, and then he sees that I'm still running with the ball and the goal is there, and he does this, which means play on, both
Right.
hands up in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
air, advantage to be played.
Mm-hmm.
And he could still go back and caution the other player.
Mm-hmm.
He could say, that foul, that was a serious foul, I gave advantage, but still you need to be cautioned.
Yeah.
A good official would do this, but most
Uh-huh.
won't. So I'm playing the game strategically,
Mm-hmm.
using game theory, using trickery, because in sports, to win, to be deceptive, as in war, as in any competition, it's necessary.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is why today I prefer not to engage in competitive activities of this sort. I prefer collaborative activities.
Mm-hmm.
There are video games that are competitive and video games that are collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're doing now, this community experiment that we have, this is a collaborative experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Let's rewind a little bit. So we were talking about it only took one person to bring you to a dance class, and that initiated a ripple in your life.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward to the next big moment of change, potentially.
That would have been when I was given the opportunity to dance in a piece, which was labeled as a contemporary dance piece.
Okay.
But in terms of movement, it pretty much just involved walking back and forth on stage, forming patterns.
Just pause you for a second. Where is your bungalow?
It's over there.
Oh, okay, because mine is here, so we were just kind of walking in the shade.
Cool.
But I think there would be a nice place to set our things down and move around a little bit while we chat. So you were saying you were invited to dance in a piece, and this is at what age?
That was the first year when I was in the modern dance club that I talked
Oh, okay.
about.
The very first year.
The very first year. They gave me the opportunity. I actually asked to be in a jazz piece. Because I was listening to all the Michael Jackson music as they were playing, while they were practicing, and I was like, oh, I want to do this. But then they said, actually, we have enough people in that piece. Why don't you go and join that modern dance, that contemporary dance piece? I said, what was that? You know, we have a professional teacher who is from the dance company. We only had one professional local dance company back then, called City Contemporary Dance Company.
Okay.
So we have a professional teacher from that company coming to teach us and choreograph us. I thought, okay, maybe this is a good chance, you know, to learn from the pro. So I went. Turned out that, as I said, the piece consisted of pretty much just walking. And for the longest time during rehearsals, I was like, okay, so we've done this walking now. What's going to happen next? It turned out that there is no next.
That is the next.
That was it.
Yeah.
We basically were doing a walking study on stage. And I found that to be confusing, to say the least.
Yeah.
I'm like, how come you guys are doing dance to all this Michael Jackson music, and here we're dancing to this, I don't know what music it was even. Has no words to it. Didn't really have a beat to it. So anyway, I did that, and this was like 26 years ago. So back then we were still using VHS.
Ah, yes.